This is what the trailer for World of Horror looks like. A schoolgirl enters the bathroom with a small kitchen knife as she carefully looks around for the thing that's been following her. Without knowing it, that thing was already there. This segment alone had me on the edge of my seat because of three main reasons. 1. A horror game made with Junji Ito's style is a dream come true. 2. A horror game that combines Lovecraftian cosmic element with Junji Ito's style just sounds amazing. And finally, 3. A horror game that has detective mystery elements allowing you to solve the problem is one of my favorite genres. But unfortunately, only 2 of these conditions were met. World of Horror is this little roguelite that began as a smash indie hit being developed by one guy, officially releasing in 2023 before dramatically disappearing. While it's not rare for games to be forgotten after being hyped up, it is rare for a game like this to be discarded from the internet so easily. And I believe I know why. To show you the problem, let me start by showing you what the game actually is. You start the game by picking one of 3 modes, with the game recommending you experience the spine-chilling story of School Scissors. I promise it's way cooler than something is happening to your town. An old train station slows down and stops at its last station. The end of the world is at hand, and you finally arrived in the doomed town. From here, the game drops you into the backdrop of the town with the lighthouse gleaming in the distance. At first, you might go to your apartment and check out what's going on there. Or you can be overwhelmed like me with the UI. Like, what the heck are all these words? We first start our investigation on the School Scissors. A rumor has been spreading out of a terrible woman returning from the grave. A woman with the widest smile and the sharpest scissors. Here's the gist of it. Our friend thought he could banish the ghost by himself, and after not hearing from him for a long time, you went to school to finish the ritual that he started with his book. Again, the UI made it hard to understand what I was supposed to do here, but based on the clues from the text, we needed to uncover what our friend had written in his book. Let's see, in section 15 he said that one of the classrooms contains handles needed for the ritual. Section 18 said we can weaken the demon with the sigil drawn here, so we now have a destination and an objective. We exit out of the notebook and press on the Explore School button. Ooh, a tall woman with an unsettling face and twitching lips stops you. She asks us to help her move her stuff. I'm sorry, they say to never judge a book by its cover, but I would probably be a bit hesitant if someone with a twitching lip stops me for anything. Then again, she said she is new here, so maybe she's just a bit nervous. But we have other things to do, like saving our friend, so I'm going to have to decline. Oh, we are forced to help her. But I want to point your eyes at this. Luck check. This is the core mechanic behind World of Horror. On the side of your portraits are stats you can find on any typical tabletop RPG, and each of these stats will be used to roll on nearly every encounter in the game, especially the luck stat that is invisible to the player. By the way, that all happened back to back. We go back to exploring the campus and stumble across an old anatomy model. Its heart still beating. The sight almost makes you sick. -1 stamina. You found an additional page on your friend's diary saying that the blessed chalk was left on the roof. This time, we were given the choice to peek outside, but since we were in a hurry, I decided to explore the school once again. On the roof, you find the girl your friend was talking about. In one hand, she holds a bag. In the other, a pair of bloody scissors. The scene opened up to a girl named Maru with her mouth slit open in a wide grin. But what's even more terrifying is this mess below her. This is where we learn the world of horror combat, the central mechanic of which is the action meter. These 4 buttons shows what type of action you want to use, these buttons are the action you will use, and the bar indicate how many action you can take in one turn. Meaning, you can beat the crap out of anyone if your stats are high enough. After defeating Maru, we grabbed the blessed chalk and returned to the classroom. Since I'm a bit of a smooth brain, it took me a bit to figure out that you can actually draw with the 1 and 2 button here, and even a bit more to match the symbol from the notebook. 1 down, 1 more to go. We went back to exploring the school to find the candles and stumble upon a black doll. Upon closer inspection, I really hope I can show this on YouTube. Finally, the candle for the ritual. We lit them accordingly, and now... Wait, what is that? You take a step back as the writhing amorphous mass slowly takes shape. Soon, it becomes a tall, woman-like creature with 3 faces, all connected by a wide smile. Now, it is your chance to defeat this horror. It is your only chance. This game was made in MS Paint, by the way. The art is quite good for what I can assume is a guy drawing with a mouse. Some of it gets pretty disturbing later on in the video. Some of you may recognize the urban legend behind this lady, the slit mouth woman, known for going around and asking people if she's pretty. If you say no, she will slash your face, giving you the same Glasgow smile. If you say yes, then she pulls her mask down, asking once again, am I pretty? If you answer either yes or no, she brutally kills you regardless. So the only way to truly escape her is to give her an uncertain answer and make a run for it. Unfortunately, you get neither of that choice here and actually just straight up fight her. This is a boss encounter and she does a good amount of damage to our meager health bar, but we should be strong enough thanks to the correct sigil drawn from earlier. The horror disappeared and our friend was found to be alive. Ending A. In my opinion, the tutorial actually does a decent job at explaining how to navigate their confusing button prompt and showing us what to expect. 1. You can beat any horrors in the game provided you have the strength to do so. 2. Every mystery has its own multiple endings. And finally 3. The game is entirely RNG, which here is when the problem begins to rear its ugly head. RNG isn't entirely a bad thing. It's a mechanic that creates artificial content and can save the developers a lot of time and money. In fact, one of the main appeals to roguelike games is its inherent randomness and how each run is theoretically different from the rest. An example of random generation in other games is Minecraft, which is built entirely through an algorithm that randomly places landmarks for you to explore and build over. Now imagine if Minecraft world has to be built slowly, 1 block at a time. But RNG can also be used for bad things as well. Despite being a gacha gamer, the mechanic of pooling for a new character is akin to gambling. The RNG here serves as a dopamine rush when you finally manage to land on that golden unit you've wished for. There's also artificially making the game increasingly difficult by turning the game against you. Now, going back to World of Horror, the way the dev uses RNG can be a major turnoff for many players. To help you understand the RNG problem, let me show you the 3 most important stats in the game. These 2 are basically your health bar, and this is your time limit. If stamina and reason hit 0, it would typically be a game over, but the game lets you continue fighting on, giving you a chance to recover, even from the negative. However, there's nothing you could do for the doom meter. To give you an example of how much RNG can screw you over, here is a run on Mimi, which automatically puts you in the 2nd hardest difficulty. Our first mystery is about investigating the disappearance of 3 teenagers who were filming a documentary. Right away on my first exploration of the mansion, I got hit with a +2% doom, which isn't too bad because, I just got hit with a -2 reason. Well, at least we complete our objective for this investigation. Time to explore the place the game actually wants us to go. You've been cursed with survivor skill, which adds 2% of doom at the end of every mystery. You know what? This isn't too bad. It's still salvageable. I got myself some new allies in the form of recruiting high school students to follow me indefinitely and getting myself a new flashlight. Now, Normally finishing a mystery would subtract some doom from the doom meter, but since we are automatically on the second hardest difficulty combined with survival skill, I already knew this run was doomed. What I'm trying to show you is the constant negative things that just happens, and while yes, you can deal with losing your HP, there is rarely anything in this game that can reduce the doom meter. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to literally lose on the last step towards the ending because now I have to pray on the metaphysical luck to somehow not encounter a doom event. This is the RNG problem. How do you go about beating a run if the run is already over from the beginning? It's questions like that causes many people to drop the game because some encounter can leave you with a temporary or even permanent injury that debuffs you the entire run. But since the majority of my current audience are probably gacha gamers, how would you deal with this problem? Unfortunately, there isn't any way to bypass the ungodly amount of bad luck you will suddenly be struck with, but if we know anything, then it's the fact that a chance higher than 0 is a chance we're willing to take. So yes, RNG can be a big problem in this game, but maybe it isn't so bad. Chance is inevitable in almost everything. But remember the statement I said way earlier in the intro? 3. A horror game that has detective mystery elements allowing you to solve the problem is one of my favorite genres. But unfortunately, only 2 of these conditions were met. Amidst the sea of problems that may turn people away, the one that strikes me the most is how this isn't a detective mystery game like I had hoped. Sure, some investigation have you actually using your noggin to solve the problem, but they are rare and few. Most investigation in World of Horror consists of you going to wherever the circle is at the moment, while also giving you a choice on whether to complete the bonus objective or ignore it. I wish I could tell you that you'd at least be able to explore the surrounding area or maybe figure out the mystery on your own, but you don't. Just like you've seen in the previous section of the video, this is all the game is. So maybe the gameplay isn't a catch, but the story. This is where some people might say that the game is a visual novel, which is a grossly misleading assumption. Just cause you have to read a lot that makes it a visual novel? I mean, would you call these visual novels then? Sure. The way the story is presented is in a visual novel format, but that doesn't mean that the whole game itself classifies as a visual novel. If you aren't familiar, visual novels are games that focus solely on text and illustration. At minimum, it is a reading experience first and gameplay later. World of Horror treats each investigation as its own story, so nothing from the first investigation will carry over narrative-wise. Why I think people label this game as a visual novel is that the game has these 2 elements and also a multiple ending type at the end of each investigation. But these people forgot that this game has an entire other RPG element that makes it an actual game. You can level up, then choose to allocate your stats, pick different items and weapons, and also choose different perks. And when you die, you have to start all over again, making this a true roguelite experience. But what about the horror part? The way a roguelite instills fear in you is about the same as a survival horror game. 1. The scarcity of resource creates this anxiety of the next upcoming thing, making you constantly worry whether you have enough health or damage to deal with the problem, which leads to the second part, which is the actual scare itself that comes along once the player is in a vulnerable spot. World of Horror achieves the first step with its extremely tight resource management and constant negative events, forcing you to use everything in your inventory. But where you struggle is the second step. When you first start World of Horror, you might be amazed at the amount of reference brought to life in this game, ranging from obscure Lovecraftian horror to well-known Junji Ito's creation. While these encounters are stressful, it isn't exactly frightening, but there are still some incredible moments, one of which actually made me recoil. Skip to this timestamp if you want to go into the game without being spoiled by any of the story. Eerie episode of Evolving Eels begin with your neighbor asking you to investigate a creepy tenant who's a little too obsessed with fish. The atmosphere itself is surprisingly lofty considering the looming eldritch horror threat. Like two friends playing Scooby-Doo, we investigate his apartment, his computer, and the school he works at. Soon, you and Kana stumble across a bunch of jarred eels-like fishes, to which Kana took one despite our protests. Have you ever seen eels like this? So freaky. Don't you have a feeling it's like watching us? After a bit of exploring and getting stalked, Kana informed us about the neighbor burning some notes behind the building. And literally, as I went to check the apartment, I got another curse. But Kana was right. Someone did try to burn some paper. We salvaged what we could and went back to decipher the note. The note reads something about a village that dumps bodies for eels to lay their eggs in. After reading the note, you turn to your neighbor who says, "There must be something more we can learn." I'll try to break into his apartment tomorrow morning. I wonder what he's hiding in there. You shrug nonchalantly. If anyone's gonna commit a crime today, it's not gonna be you. Although, you just wish you could throw this damn jar into the trash. So now, we wait for Kana. You waited an entire day. Where the hell are they? You decided to check out the neighbor's apartment yourself, and as you enter the apartment, you're met with eels flailing around inside the jars as you're only left with three choices. Check the bathroom, the bedroom, or run. I decided to check the bathroom first. Maybe Kana's in there. But what we found was something else. The neighbor's swollen corpse rotting away in the murky water. His eyes are missing. Luckily, it wasn't Kana, but I fear that they may have suffered the same fate. Kana, they're alive! But there's something in their eye. We need to make a decision now. We should rush them to the hospital? But if that something in Kana's eye is the same as our neighbor, then maybe we have to... You rush Kana to the hospital. All you can do now is wait. Wake up, dude. You've been asleep for like 3 hours. You groggily open your eyes to see your friend Kana. They're wearing an eye patch. Not so pretty anymore, but couldn't exactly tell the doctor the truth about what happened, and pretty sure I won't be winking with my left eye anytime soon. But thank you for saving my life. Kana's the best, man. This is an example of one of the best mystery in the game, especially with how fast they were able to get me to care for this oddly chill guy slash girl. Honestly, I don't know if it's another bug or something, but Kana's gender is actually a mystery in itself. Regardless, eerie episode of Evolving Eels perfectly encapsulate that sense of anxiety and dread you'd find in a horror game, especially the build up to what would have became of your new friend. But what about the roguelite part of the genre? How can the game keep itself fresh despite you already knowing everything? Well, they do it with characters. By characters, I don't actually mean NPCs you can talk to, but characters you pick to play as. Most of these characters dramatically change up the way you have to play the game, and this can add a lot of replayability to World of Horror. Take Haru for instance. Besides looking and fighting like Kiryu from Yakuza, he starts with a debuff called nicotine addiction, causing him to be 1.2 times slower in combat, which can be remedied if you were to regularly buy cigarette pack and use them before combat, giving him a pretty decent buff. However, because of either a bug or something else I haven't noticed, he straight up inhales the cigar every time I buy one, forcing me to be permanently stuck with this debilitating debuff. Another one of my favorite is Mimi. Oh, Mimi. When picking Mimi, you are automatically placed in the second hardest difficulty, starting us off with only 13 stamina and 10 mind. Her stats look incredible and are actually really good for early game, until you realize you have to freaking lobotomize yourself every end of the mystery. The absolutely insane mental gymnastic you have to do to forcibly rewire your own vestibular system combined with the negative luck, which by the way adds onto the already increased bad luck that will happen, and you'll fail every event check. You know what Moriko Ishii gets? What I'm trying to say here is that there's genuinely a lot to do in this game despite the small story investigation you have to navigate, especially when, much like any roguelite, you slowly unlock more things over the course of your own playthrough, meaning new investigation, items, and even curses you'll have to deal with. Even now, I've yet to beat the game 100% and have probably only scratched the surface of what this game contains. Like, for instance, the game border represents that of an old CRT monitor you'd find in the early 2000s. Upon zooming out all the way, you get to see that you're playing a game within a game. It is dark outside, pitch black in your own room. You notice black ooze dripping from the disc port as you click around the endless abyss, trying to reach for something, but nothing ever appears. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. Occasionally, weird symbols would appear as the game load. I sometimes feel as if someone is watching me from the windows, staring silently. After playing through most of these characters, I can slowly come to a conclusion that maybe I'm just making this all up. Maybe this is just a consequence of staying up way too late for the past few days as I continue to dive into this game. While I've been talking mostly about gameplay and design choices, I failed to mention that this game is nowhere finished yet, and the developer had gone radio silent since October of 2023. Sure, the game has its up and down, and I've only been talking about the major negatives while trying my best to not be nitpicky. But there are plenty of positives in World of Horror. For instance, the artwork is genuinely amazing, especially when you learn about the fact that this game was drawn by a dentist in his off time on MS Paint. Almost every injury and curses are represented on your character sprite. There's also a lot of reference from real-world counterparts, which I will lead you to discover. So, why do I think that the game has faded away to the niche side of the internet? To be honest with you, I believe it's either due to the lack of communication from the developer himself, or simply because the internet has moved on. And I'm sure, or at least I hope, that the developer is happy with his game and where it has taken itself to. Thank you guys for watching. More content to come, so stay tuned.